You need more control, a little bit more nuance so that you get higher quality results because otherwise it's just slop and it's content for content's sake. And nobody really wants that. The thing everyone's talking about, but I don't think will be very good by the end of the year, are agents. So the concept that you can have an AI go and independently complete a series of tasks, one of the core tenets of what we've been building in Astral is around our workflow engine, which is this concept that we can essentially program agent-like behavior, but we are in charge of the steps. We are deciding like how it is breaking down a problem and the way to think about it and contextualize it so that you get the highest quality response. I think that you will certainly see with some of these models, like the reasoning models, where it's able to go through and independently identify certain steps to complete. Whether or not the output then matches your expectation, I think is inherently where the conflict will be for really simple stuff that's more specific of input A to input B, and it's got to go from this to this. It's very constrained. That'll probably be a lot easier to handle on the agent side. But anything creative or nuanced or like with broader depth, I think will actually be quite difficult to make that assumption. And it'll also be highly variable because these models are just non-deterministic. So everybody wants the agent stuff to work, and therefore it's being highly developed and you're seeing it integrated into everything. I think that stuff's going to be much better for really simple tasks, not anything of depth like what Astral's producing when it comes to like rich materials or courses and things like that.
Yeah, this is fascinating. A lot of things to unpack there going through my head, but would you mind just simplifying the difference between what you're describing as an agent and the workflow engine?
Yeah, an agent is just completing a series of tasks, right? So when you say, I would like a course, in theory, the agent would say, or would think, how do I break down this problem and how do I get to, by the end, delivering some kind of a course to someone? The series of logic steps and actions taken over the course of, I want this thing through to, I have a course is essentially what an agent's able to do. A lot of the other pieces of what agents, the types of tooling that people are excited about with agents is that they can take control over certain apps or functions on your computer or your phone. So if part of completing the tasks involves, let's say, interacting with Excel or painting something in Photoshop, in theory, in the future, these agents would be able to interact with data and software on your computer to accomplish the task. So they're not just necessarily isolated to just text as the core input. You can actually have them do something. Again, you're seeing it's very early days on all of this stuff. Anthropic's recently released an open standard to interact with different tools locally on a computer or in a server, and they're trying to standardize that across the industry. I think you'll just see more of that kind of stuff. And ultimately, I think the dream with agents is that they will be able to take on tasks you don't have to do every day or tasks that are frankly just boring for some people who don't want to have to slog through it. I think you'll get through a lot of that kind of standard layman's work with agents eventually when it's able to have more control. The workflow side, you can think of it like rather than letting the AI decide, okay, to create the course, I have to come up with 5 good ideas, write a paragraph for each idea, reference this PDF, and then output something that's clearly not good enough for a course yet. The workflow engine lets us define what good looks like. It lets us say, okay, let's actually reverse engineer what an excellent course is comprised of. And what are all the touch points and elements that we would need to pull from? So, in the same way that in the future, these agents will be able to pull from different data sources and use different tools, we essentially have different nodes in our workflow that lets us say, okay, to effectively produce, let's say, the syllabus for this course, we're going to need to reference these touch points from the library. We're going to need to format them in this way, and then we'll process them like this. And then from that, we're going to then take these 3 actions and we're going to fan out and do this. There's a lot more structured logic around how it's set up. I think the dream, and certainly we'll get there, is that the agents will be able to take on a lot of these incredibly complex tasks. But I guess prediction, I don't think the black box is really going to work for a lot of people. Like the idea of I'm going to let this reasoning model handle everything end to end. I think people are going to, again, to that point of tools for creativity, people are going to want to see like, how is this thinking? And do I have the opportunity to go in and manipulate it and adjust it? Maybe it's made an assumption around how it should, let's say, create a lesson plan in the course that I disagree with. In the agent model, it would just do it. But actually, I think what people are going to want is to go in and see essentially like, here's the plan of how I'm going to produce this course. Do you agree? Is there something that you want to change? And you'll want to iterate to get to that repeatable element. And once you have something repeatable, then you're like, fantastic. Let's run it. Let's make it work. That's the way we're thinking about it with our workflow engine. Certainly, I would love the ability to just go in and say, I would like a workflow on this and to have it fan out and create a workflow from it that I can go in and edit. We've actually already prototyped a little bit of that for ourselves. But again, the first draft of that from the AI is not necessarily the way that we would want to do it. And so you get most of the way there, but then you might want to change something up. And so that's the difference between an agent and a workflow engine is that agents, it's a black box. You're asking for something, it's just going and taking a bunch of actions. And then with the workflow engine, it's more visual. You see the steps that are being taken to process information and give you a certain output. And ultimately, that workflow does something, whether it's produce some high quality material or write a personalized email, et cetera. There's a logic behind it.